following is a production of the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism at Western Illinois University.
Live from Saline Hall in high definition. News 3 starts now.
Thank you for joining us for this News 3 update. I'm Devin Brooks. An annual community challenge to help our furry friends is just days away from wrapping up. News 3's Yolotson Franco tells us how you can show support.
The Humane Society of McDonough County is an organization of animal lovers. They assist animals in the community in any way they can, and it's hosting its 7th annual Bricks Challenge.
Bricks came to us and said that he wanted to do some kind of a fundraiser for the Humane Society, and he wanted to donate $1,000, but somehow he wanted to make it a community effort.
Last year, they raised more than $13,000, and in the first 6 years of the challenge, it has raised more than $71,000.
Our goal this year, since it's the 7th year, is to break last year's amount.
In 2019, the Bricks Challenge was able to help 125 dogs and 245 cats get adopted.
There's no donation too small. $1 or $1,000 is still going to be used for the same cause, and that's to help animals in our counties.
In McDonough County, reporting for News 3, Yolotson Franco.
Changes are coming to the training and policies in the Macomb Police Department. This comes months after calls for police reform and racial justice. Here's my report outside of the police station. After months of protests and riots across the country surrounding policing, residents here in Macomb are asking what's being done here at the Macomb Police Department.
Hearing in this a town hall to discuss race issues in this community.
Asking city leaders to improve race relations in Macomb.
We're glad that these discussions are happening. We're getting closer to having a real discussion.
For months, one McDonough County group has been calling on the city council to take up the issue of police reform and racial justice.
It's a hard job, but the pool is the most important thing.
Aldermen say they have a better understanding where Macomb police stand, with hopes of bridging the divide between law enforcement and people of color.
Our department is very professional. Like I said, we're an accredited agency. Anybody that wants to come and investigate us, I'm open.
Police Chief Kurt Barker told the council the department's main focus right now is recruiting a diverse group of officers.
There's always improvements, like I talked about tonight, doing our recruiting. We need to do a little bit better on our recruiting, and we got to do better on our hiring.
Barker says the department has a list of measures aimed at improving policy. That includes working to bring social workers on calls, some officers trained in crisis intervention. The entire force was trained in anti-bias policing. A complaint form is now available. Hire a chief diversity officer and plan First Amendment training for officers. Mayor Mike Inman agrees these are important topics to address in treating all groups fairly.
It's my ask that we continue to move in a positive direction to resolve these issues and not get bogged down and my way is the only way, this way is the only way.
And McMeekin says it's a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done to build trust with those who are called to protect and serve.
There's a lot going on here and none of this gets fixed until we truly have a discussion that brings in our most marginalized, least represented, least protected voices.
Chief Barker says there is currently a diverse group of applicants who applied to become officers here in Macomb, but he would like to see more. In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks. And the department is set to buy 25 body cameras to roll out by the spring. Well, we are less than a week away from the 2020 election, and in our area, one of the biggest measures on the ballot is a potential historic vote in Colchester after being a dry town for decades.
People talk about it every once in a while.
For more than 80 years, a town in McDonough County has been dry.
Thinking about us, being dry all these years when other towns, had approved.
Colchester Mayor Francie Welch says that approval has failed 4 times in the town.
People think they need to be voting yes when they need to be voting no.
On November 3rd, residents in Colchester will have yet another chance to allow the sale of alcohol.
I really do believe that's because they're not reading it. 47, 48, 49, let's see if we can find the 73.
Colchester City Clerk Donna Wetzel says the last time the measure was voted on was back in 1973.
About 230.
Welch says back then, 230 residents signed a petition to get the alcohol referendum back on the ballot. It didn't pass, but now fast forward to 2020.
Well, we just started walking, my wife and I, and like I said, in the evenings, get 10 or 12 names.
Longtime resident Randy Weir went door to door and collected 270 signatures, even though only 225 were needed.
And next thing you know, it's adding up, and I'm thinking, well, I believe it's going to maybe work.
And it's hard to find anyone who wants to vote yes on this measure. I went to the local gas station to hear what residents have to say, and everyone I talked to said they want the sale of alcohol. We're doing a story on the liquor vote here in Colchester. I'm doing a story on the liquor vote.
Number one is time. It's time. There's never been alcohol for years in this town.
But now in the town of about 1,500, it'll be up to the voters once again.
I would have people come in to my office and want to know what they had to do to get alcohol on the ballot.
In Colchester, reporting for News 3, I'm Devin Brooks. And we will be monitoring that vote and other races, local races, closely on Election Day on our social media platforms. Well, as COVID-19 cases rise across the country, Western Illinois University is one of many schools with plans to quarantine students who test positive. News 3's Kason Frericks tells us how WIU is keeping everyone safe.
No one could have imagined what Western Illinois University is using their empty residence halls for.
I agree. I'd never thought it would be open for quarantine and isolation housing.
But just a year after freshman students would no longer be living in the North Quad, Bayless Hall is now open to hold the university's students who are under quarantine. Students who end up testing positive will receive a phone call from the Butte Health Center. Those students will then work with a case lead to help identify contact tracing and what the student will need as they are moved into Bayless Hall. The university has the hall set up for students who will be in quarantine and those who are in isolation.
So we break out the floors by quarantine and isolation, and it's important to know what those two things are. Isolation is if you're tested positive or symptomatic. We want to isolate you away from other people. Quarantine is we believe you have been in direct contact, but you have no symptoms, and that period of time is for 14 days.
Any student in quarantine or isolation is not allowed to leave the floor that they are put on. They can go use the restrooms and showers on the floor, but they are not supposed to enter anyone else's room. This means that food is brought to the students by ordering it online the day before from the university's dining services.
So as we've gotten more people, they've developed and gone to more of an app-based thing. So once you get in there, you scan a QR code. That QR code brings up a form, and we ask, pretty much you put your order in for the next day. So the menu pops up, you pick what you want, you fill it out based on that, and then Sodexo brings it 2 meals a day. They'll bring those meals up, and it's tagged for you got your name on it.
The university has made an effort in helping students stay entertained while they are in quarantine or isolation. Online yoga classes through the rec center have been set up to allow students to have physical activity in their room. The university is also hoping to put on an outside concert for the students in Bayless. April Getz, a WIU student who spent some time in quarantine, said it was not an easy transition for her.
It was difficult at first. I know when I went there, I was calling up my dad, I was calling up my mom. Of course, they kind of gave me some tough loving. They're like, well, you know, it is what it is. This is COVID.
Getz found that playing her ukulele and FaceTiming her cross-country teammates made it much easier for her to cope.
And just to have that, you know, support and to have the friendship together, you know, even though we couldn't see each other, but we saw each other through, you know, FaceTime and Snapchat and just texting. I think it went well.
Roselieb said that the staff in Bayless will continue to thoroughly disinfect and clean each floor and continue contact tracing to keep all students and faculty who are on campus safe.
I don't think anybody truly understands how much time that people are taking out from their normal jobs to get this through. And you know what? That's what we got to do to get through this.
In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Kason Frericks.
Coming up next on News 3, how a local nonprofit is offering financial help for immigrant students. We'll have that story when we come back.
Live from Salee Hall in high definition. Live at 4 is back in a moment. Live from Salee Hall in high definition. Live at 4 continues.
Welcome back. Military Appreciation Week is approaching, and one of WIU's main focuses to teach future service members is about diversity. Here's our Dylan Smith with more.
Although Western Illinois University was established as a teacher's school, its roots in the military grow deep. Even before the passing of legendary Colonel Rock Hansen, WIU has made it a point to maintain ongoing love and support for the U.S. military. Through school symbols and traditions, WIU continues to embrace its military background with Military Appreciation Week. Among several campus activities, a group discussion about diversity will also take place. With the military consisting of service members from various backgrounds and ethnicities, it can be easy for one to lose their cool.
You have less space per person on a U.S. Navy warship than you do in a federal penitentiary. That the potential for people to lose their cool and or not be able to interact in the way that they should is live and in living color a lot of times. And so if you do not deal with an issue with diversity well, if you allow yourself as a military force to be polarized and separated, your military readiness is directly impacted.
Despite the military being a large group of men and women who were once strangers, selflessness plays a critical role in being able to function as a unit.
What humbled me is when I was dealing with our wounded veterans in Fallujah in the military hospital, when I would see them, normally the first words out of their mouth would always be one of 5 things. Where's my sergeant? Where's my corporal? Did Johnny make it? Chaps, I got to go back. How do I take care of so-and-so? It was about anybody and everybody but themselves. And so what you see in the military is they get a concept of being part of something greater than themselves.
We're all a big team. The Army's a huge team. And if you're not supporting your teammates, well, the whole thing falls apart. It's a big machine. But once you sign the dotted line, you're like everybody else. You're just as useless as everybody else till you're done with training. And the drill sergeants treat you the same. Everybody treats you the same.
Unity through diversity, and I'm adding the word service, represents maturity and strength. Part of what I currently see is we're allowing diversity to separate us rather than come together like we are in the military.
Service members of the U.S. military come from a variety of different races, ethnicities, and backgrounds. The acts of selflessness the military presents show the world that when we come together, we are stronger. Diversity has proven essential in not only the military, but in society as a whole. In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Dylan Smith.
Immigrant students at WIU who are facing tough times during the pandemic can get help. News 3's Kason Frericks explains what a local nonprofit is doing to offer support.
The local nonprofit Western Illinois Dreamers is offering financial assistance to immigrant students who have suffered a hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic. Students can receive financial assistance for rent, utilities, including phone and internet, as well as mortgages. WIU professor Julia Abarracin, who helps run the Western Illinois Dreamers, said the nonprofit has new guidelines as to who is eligible.
This opportunity applies to our either international students or students who were not born in this country but are considered for school purposes as American students.
Students will be judged on a case-by-case basis, but can receive anywhere from $500 to $1,000 in assistance. Albarracin said that in order for students to qualify, they must be facing hardships like losing their job, increased medical cost, or increased child care cost. They will also need to show proof of residence in order to receive any assistance.
They had to provide a rental agreement, a lease that they may have with their landlord, and then copies of the bills that they want us to pay for.
Students who would like to see if they qualify are asked to call 309-255-5027 to start the application process. In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Kason Frericks.
A WIU music professor is making waves in a new documentary to shine light on economic differences in Illinois with the goal of having a conversation to understand one another. Here's News 3's Jenna Scarlupa with more.
Many productions have been halted by COVID-19, but one WIU professor is in the credits of a new documentary. John Cooper, director of WIU Jazz Studies, contributed an original composition to the People, Places, and Power series from the Illinois Humanities Council. The series focuses on economic disparities across state regions, and Cooper says it tries to promote understanding.
And so the documentary kind of looks at both sides and tries to develop a conversation.
Cooper says his piece, titled The Governor of Forgotonia, was actually composed separately in a project with colleagues.
This particular film producer happened upon it and contacted me to see if they could use it in his documentary. Just the subject was just so close to what they were doing that he thought it would make a good addition to his project.
Cooper says students and colleagues in WIU Jazz all helped support his work.
We're a pretty close-knit family in the jazz area. You know, our students are out there playing all the time and sharing the things that they've done, and we all kind of watch each other's stuff.
Cooper says new Illinois legislation may result if viewers empathize with those in different economic situations.
The conversation is what helps, and empathy. If you can empathize with their struggles, and they can empathize with yours, well, you know, maybe there's a way to find legislation that helps everybody.
To see the full documentary, visit the Illinois Humanities YouTube page and search Fulton County Edition.
We want to know what the forecast is for our Halloween and all the ghouls and goblins that are going to be out on Halloween night. So here's News 3's Kason Frericks. Kason?
Oh, thank you, Devin. Yeah, actually out that sky cam, we saw the sun actually peeking out through the clouds there, and we're going to have sunny and dry conditions
for the weekend, and we'll get into your holiday forecast here in a little bit. But we're going to have a warm Halloween day, so it's going to be very nice if you're heading out and trick-or-treating. And we're expecting some 60s for next week, so if you've had that heater turned on after some cold temperatures, you might be able to give that a little bit of a break. Let's take a look at future radar here. You can see for our Thursday, we're going to expect some showers to maybe come in. Can't rule out a chance of a shower on Thursday, but we're going to stay dry as we head into our Friday, Saturday, and then through our weekend. Let's talk a little bit about Hurricane Zeta that is taking place in the Gulf right now. It has moved through parts of Louisiana and Alabama, actually hitting New Orleans at a Category 2. That will continue to move its way northeast and head through parts of the United States here, and it will drastically decrease in strength as it heads across. You can see here for our surface map now, you can see what's left of Hurricane Zeta is just right there, located on our screen there. And that's that rain chances that we could possibly see here for those rain showers that could take place maybe on Thursday, but it's looking like we're going to stay dry for the most part. Hey, a new thing we're starting here with Storm Team 3. We're talking about our weather photos. We want you to send us some of your weather photos if you got some good pictures of maybe the snow that fell earlier this week. Send it to us, tag it using News3 WX Pics, and we might be able to feature you on maybe one of our future newscasts. Temperatures for tonight, though, around the area, lower 30s to upper 20s for much of us. It will be chilly once again, but temperatures are looking to rebound just a little bit for tomorrow. We're going to see 50 in Monmouth, 51 in Peoria, and 52 over there in Havana. Much more mild temperatures for this time of the year. Tonight, though, partly cloudy skies here in Macomb will drop down low of 29. Our winds will stay pretty strong, but not too well at 10 miles an hour out of the north-northwest. And here's tomorrow, now sunny skies. It's going to be a beautiful day out there, very mild, and that's what we're going to see as we start to head into our weekend as well. So here we go. Let's take a look. 5-day forecast here. Friday, a high of 52, as we said. And then Saturday, what a beautiful day to go out and trick or treat. A high of 60. So if you got plans for that day, make sure you do them then. Wednesday, very windy conditions. Our temperatures will drop. But then as we start to head into the next work week, 51 on Monday, 61 on Tuesday. And those temperatures are going to be very, very warm. We're even going to go above average with the middle to upper 60s. Devin, back over to you.
Wow, Halloween is the pick day of the week. Thanks, Kason. And now moving on to sports. News 3 Sports Director Kennedy Williams sat down with local leaders to look back at racial issues in sports history and now how they're pushing for change for athletes in our area.
Why should I worry about going to a little old jail to free my poor people who's been catching hell here for 400 years?
And I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to. I'll stand.
It has been 52 years since America watched the 1968 Olympics medal ceremony in disbelief as two black athletes, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, raised their fists in salute of Black Power while the Star-Spangled Banner played. In Smith's words, the gesture was a cry for freedom. Today, athletes are still fighting for America to live up to its creed. And local leaders here are continuing to work to bring change to the racial issues in society today.
Again, I think athletes have always given meaning and purpose to movements.
McDonough County NAACP President BYRON ODEN-SHABAZZ believes athletes have always been a voice.
Today and in the past, they give voice to when the rest of white America go like this. We came to hear you, came to see you play. We didn't come to hear you, we came to see you. Well, they changed that. It's like you can keep your fingers in your ears, but this sound I'm gonna make is gonna be loud enough that it's still gonna penetrate.
ODEN-SHABAZZ is focused on the way to bring about change.
And we have to change the conversation with the people in power and stop being afraid.
Assistant for Diversity and Inclusion of WIU, Dr. Sterling Sadler, credits interim president Dr. Martin Abraham for bringing issues of race to the forefront.
Who's done a wonderful job to actually put racism out front, okay, to the community. I think that should tell our black athletes that, hey, okay, it's okay to come out and express yourself. They're also trying to work with the mayor's office and the chief of police in reference to issues centered around racism.
In Macomb, reporting for News 3, I'm Kennedy Williams.
A Macomb school teacher and former Leatherneck writes about an experience she went through as a kid of growing up in an area where no one else looked like her. News 3's Yalitza Franco reports on how the woman pushed through and published her own book.
Western Illinois University has more than thousands of graduates, and each student forms their own lives and career upon graduation. Recently, a former Leatherneck self-published her own book called The Color of Friendship.
She lives in a town where everyone is a shade of orange, and so she is like frightening to her at first, but she just has to adjust to it, and then she becomes best friend with the girl who's orange. And so that was just like me growing up. I moved from one town that was like predominantly African American to a town that was just predominantly Caucasian.
Adrienne Graham is a first grade teacher at Lincoln School and has been teaching at the Macomb School District for 7 years.
So it was just about an experience that I went through as a child.
Thanks to COVID-19, she was determined to publish her idea of growing up in an environment where she looked different from the rest.
During COVID, it was just a good time. I just had more time at home to actually sit down and learn about the publishing process.
Graham graduated from WIU in 2014 with a bachelor's in early childhood education. Then, in 2018, she went back for her master's degree.
I still can't believe it, and it's just because I wrote it so long ago, and it was just based off an experience that I've been through, and it's just like unbelievable. I'm proud of myself.
Graham also leaves us a piece of advice she discovered throughout the publishing of her book, The Color of Friendship.
If you want to do something, it doesn't even have to be writing a book, of course, but if there's something that you want to do, go for it.
Reporting for News 3, Yalitza Franco.
It's always great to see those stories of inspiration and pushing through obstacles. Great story. Well, that does it for us. Thank you for joining us for this News 3 update. Stay connected with us on Facebook and online at news3wiu.com. Have a good night.